You are 5 years old, barefoot, and already carrying a sharpened digging stick. No classroom waits for you. No adult has planned your day. A lion can still kill you, but so can a cut, a fever, or a bad season. For most of human history, childhood was not a protected waiting room before real life began. It was real life, only lived in a smaller body with less strength, less experience, and an enormous amount to learn. Your survival depended on becoming useful, observant, and socially connected long before any modern child would be allowed to cross a road alone. So what did growing up actually feel like? The first truth is uncomfortable. Many children never reached adulthood. Infection, injury, hunger, cold, and complications around birth could turn an ordinary week into a family disaster. A broken bone that heals easily in a hospital could become permanent damage. And a stomach illness could drain a small body faster than anyone could replace the lost water. Childhood was precious partly because it was uncertain. But ancient childhood was not simply endless misery. Children played, explored, argued, copied adults, made mistakes, formed friendships, and filled camps with noise. Archaeology usually preserves stone, bone, ash, and teeth, while laughter disappears completely. That imbalance can make the past look colder than it was. What happens when the missing children are placed back into the scene? Start with your first years. A human baby is unusually helpless compared with many other mammals, and your large brain takes years to develop. You cannot cling to a moving mother like a young chimpanzee, feed yourself, or keep pace with a mobile camp. Someone must carry you, protect you, feed you, soothe you, and watch you almost constantly. That someone was not always only your mother. Anthropologist Sarah Blaffer-Hrdy developed the cooperative breeding model, the idea that human children evolved in communities where fathers, grandparents, older siblings, and other trusted adults helped provide care. In plain English, raising a child was a group project. Your mother mattered enormously, but her survival and your survival improved when other people shared the cost. This may help explain why human children became so skilled at reading faces, following attention, and winning support. A baby surrounded by several possible caregivers benefits from noticing who is calm, who is generous, who is angry, and who is willing to help. Long before you understand words, your social brain is already studying the room. Could the need to attract care have helped shape the intensely social mind you still carry today? As you grow, nobody hands you a timetable. There is no sharp border between play and education. You learn beside the fire, along a shoreline, under trees, near a carcass, and on the path between camps. Your classroom is every place where someone more experienced is doing something worth copying. Anthropologist David Lancy has documented how children in many small-scale societies learn by watching, imitating, practicing, and gradually joining useful work. Adults may explain or demonstrate difficult tasks, but much learning begins because children pay attention and want to participate. You stand close enough to see how a hide is scraped, how fibers are twisted, how embers are protected, and how edible plants are separated from dangerous ones. Then you try. At first, your tools are small, your basket holds little, your arrows are weak, your knots slip, and your stone flakes break in the wrong place. Yet failure is part of the lesson because the cost of a child-sized mistake is often lower than the cost of an adult-sized one. How else could a complicated survival skill become automatic? Play becomes practice without needing to feel like school. You chase, wrestle, hide, throw sticks, build miniature shelters, shape mud, imitate hunting, and copy the gestures of adults. These games train balance, aim, patience, cooperation, and judgment. A pretend task can become a real skill one small correction at a time. Research among living hunter-gatherers offers clues, although no living community is a frozen copy of the Stone Age. Anthropologist Alyssa Crittenden and colleagues studied Hadza children in Tanzania and found that young people actively gathered food, especially resources that could be collected with growing skill. By later childhood, some could provide a meaningful share of their own daily energy needs. The lesson is not that every ancient child followed the same schedule, but that children can become capable foragers far earlier than many modern adults expect. Imagine your morning. You wake beside relatives while the fire is still breathing under gray ash. An older child checks the embers. Someone lifts a baby, someone else prepares a carrying sling, and several adults begin discussing water, weather, tracks, and food. You follow a group toward a patch of tubers. Nobody gives a lecture on botany. You watch which leaves the adults notice, where the soil changes color, how deep the digging stick enters, and which roots are discarded. You copy the movements, pull up something too small, and receive a laugh instead of a grade. Later, you gather berries with other children. You eat some immediately. You bring some back. You learn where snakes hide, when bees become dangerous, what fresh predator tracks look like, and how far your voice carries from camp. Is this work, play, or school? It is all three. Ancient children were also visible in places that once seemed to belong only to adults. At Le Rosel on the coast of Normandy, archaeologists uncovered hundreds of Neanderthal footprints preserved in ancient sand, dating to roughly 80,000 years ago. Researchers led by Jérémy Duvaux concluded that the tracks represented a small group dominated by children and adolescents. For a brief moment, the ground recorded who was present instead of preserving only the tools they left behind. Those tracks do not reveal every activity. They do reveal small feet moving through a working landscape where animals were butchered and stone tools were made. Children were not hidden in a separate nursery. They stood inside the social and economic life of the group. Deep caves tell a similar story. At Raufignac Cave in France, researchers Kevin Sharp and Leslie Van Gelder studied finger flutings, lines dragged through soft clay on cave walls and ceilings. Their measurements indicated that some were made by very young children, including children only a few years old. Tiny hands reached into a place often imagined as solemn, adult, and mysterious. Perhaps the children were learning. Perhaps they were playing. Perhaps adults lifted them toward the ceiling, guided them, tolerated them, or invited them to participate. The marks cannot explain their own meaning, but they destroy the image of prehistoric culture as an adults-only world. Who better to fill a cave wall with restless lines than a child? Anthropologist April Noel has argued that children and adolescents must be taken seriously as contributors to Paleolithic culture. Young people did not merely receive traditions. They practiced them, altered them, misunderstood them, combined them, and sometimes created new solutions. Innovation can begin with imperfect copying. That matters because ancient technology was not simple just because its materials were natural. Making a reliable stone point requires choosing suitable rock, striking at controlled angles, preparing edges, and understanding how force travels through the material. Producing cordage requires selecting fibers, processing them, twisting them evenly, and remembering which plants work best. Starting a fire, tracking an animal, preserving meat, finding water, and reading weather all contain layers of knowledge. You do not master these skills in a day. Human childhood is long partly because the human way of life demands so much learning. Your body grows slowly while your brain absorbs a library that exists mostly inside other people. No written manual can replace years spent watching expert hands. Adolescence brings another change. You are stronger, faster, and more independent, but not yet fully experienced. You can travel farther, carry more, care for younger children, and take part in riskier food gathering. You may test rules, challenge status, form intense friendships, and imitate people outside your immediate family. Noel has suggested that adolescence may have been especially important to innovation in Upper Paleolithic societies. Teenagers occupy a useful middle ground, skilled enough to handle tools, young enough to experiment, and socially driven to impress others. A slightly different decoration, grip, knot, trap, or hunting method might begin as imitation with a mistake. Could ancient culture sometimes move forward because a teenager refused to copy perfectly? Yet freedom came with danger. There were no fences around cliffs, rivers, fires, predators, or sharp tools. Children learned caution through warning, imitation, stories, close supervision when necessary, and sometimes painful experience. A careless moment could have consequences that modern safety systems are designed to prevent. Discipline probably varied enormously between groups, just as it does among communities today. Some hunter-gatherer societies observed by anthropologists value child autonomy and use little direct punishment, while others impose stronger expectations. Ancient humanity occupied different climates, continents, and traditions across thousands of generations. There was never one universal prehistoric parenting style. The same warning applies to gender. Children may have noticed different tasks performed more often by men, women, elders, or particular specialists, but archaeology rarely reveals a simple rule book. Skill, age, local ecology, family structure, and individual ability all mattered. A rigid modern stereotype can be just as misleading as the fantasy that everybody did everything equally. The counterintuitive truth is that ancient childhood may have offered less protection but more participation. You faced hazards that modern children are usually shielded from, yet you also had genuine roles in the life of the group. Your contributions could matter. Your knowledge had immediate purpose. Modern childhood often reverses that arrangement. You receive far greater medical protection, physical safety, and formal education, but useful responsibility may be delayed for years. Your day can be divided into adult-controlled blocks while play is separated from work and learning is separated from life. Safer does not always mean more trusted. That does not make the ancient world better. High child mortality is not freedom. Untreated pain is not resilience. Hunger, violence, infection, and loss do not become noble because they happened under an open sky. But the comparison exposes something important. Children are built to learn through participation, movement, imitation, experimentation, stories, and meaningful responsibility. Your brain still expects knowledge to connect with action. Your attention still sharpens when a skill matters now, not only on a test years later. Somewhere in your modern life, that ancient child is still waiting. It appears when you learn by touching instead of reading, when you become absorbed in making something, when a younger person copies your hands, or when responsibility makes you stand taller. Childhood was never empty time. You are 5 years old, barefoot, and already carrying a sharpened digging stick. The world is dangerous, the adults are near, and every step is teaching you how to belong.